All right, the GOAT, Francesco Montali, longtime friend. We're just talking about how last time we did this was I think it was 2 years ago, and I was back in Germany and he was in Boston, so a lot has
Was it
changed.
23, 22 or 23?
I think I want to say
It might have been the summer going into 22.
no,
I
I
think
think
it's the
I
summer of
think it was
22.
22, yeah, because
Yeah.
I was doing my
3 years,
master's.
coming up on 3 years.
Bro, that's nuts.
I know. That really is crazy.
Well,
Wow.
anyways, yeah, welcome back, man. A lot has obviously changed since then.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, man, always good to get together.
Yeah. Likewise.
So we did have a few people ask some questions, but before we get into those, just give us a little background, as much or as little as you'd like. Obviously people that know you will kind of know where you've been, what you've done, but for those that don't, kind of can do a brief intro.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Michael said, I'm Francesco Montali. Played academy. I grew up in South Florida, moved to Orlando. 1 year at Orlando, 1 year at New York Red Bull. Did 2 years in college at FIU, and then another 2.5 at Boston University. Was drafted in the third round of the 2024 MLS draft to Philadelphia. Ended up signing with Minnesota 2 in 2024. And then at the beginning of 2025, signed my first MLS contract with San Jose Earthquakes. And now we're here.
Let's go, man. Up the Quakes.
Yeah, up the Quakes.
That's huge. That's huge. Well, as we also talked about just the journeyman kind of bouncing around and being in different spots, but there's definitely beauty in that and get to meet some good people and kind of travel around. And uh
Definitely.
I guess I'll ask this question for myself is like, what have you found to be kind of the most difficult part of being in new environments like that? Obviously, you're not only
Mm,
growing as a player, but as a, young, man as well too. Like that's, there's a lot going on in life at those points.
mm.
So, what did you find was the hardest?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd say, and we were talking about it before we got on the recording, just the idea of not knowing how long you'll be in one place. Um, yeah, just in that kind of brief rundown I gave of my career, I haven't spent more than 2 years in one place outside of Boston. And that was only 2.5 years. So not knowing when your next move is going to be is tough to and it's tough at first, I think, and then now as I've gotten older, it's like just embracing each day in terms of like I'm not going to hold back because I might be gone, in 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Um, and kind of just taking each opportunity for what it is, trying to get the most out of every every opportunity or every situation that I'm in. And, that's boils down to trying to be intentional with like day-to-day stuff because, you really only have the current day because yeah, you just don't know. Whether that be like being traded or getting injured or whatever it may be. The only thing you can really control is like the present moment. So, and that's taken a lot of time. And I'm saying that at the same time as I'm not doing it. Like there's a lot of the things, my dad just always says, do as I say, not as I do. Um, and it's a process. It's definitely not like I didn't wake up one day and be like, oh, today I'm gonna be super into what's going on just here now in San Jose. But yeah, I mean just kind of going with the flow, but also not letting life just pass you by without picking what you want to do. And yeah, it's a mix of trying to keep yourself happy and but also doing the things you want to do, plus doing the things that you should do, and um, yeah, it's not easy, but it's part of the career and part of chasing the dream, you know.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was just gonna say it's almost at a certain point just the job description,
Yeah,
and you kind of have
yeah.
to take maybe that, not bad aspect, because you can frame it in different ways, but take that aspect of it as well,
I
with
should put
the
that on my LinkedIn. Huh?
yeah, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. You dropped some good inspirational quotes in that little
Yeah, right.
that little answer.
Yeah.
I'm it didn't come up before, but I'm curious, do you think part of the reason maybe you enjoyed college, so much as well too is because like you had kind of a set time frame of like you knowing that you were going to be
Mm.
there for X amount of years, like maybe that also played a role in it too.
Yeah, maybe. I knew that there was an out, you know. I knew
Yeah.
that there was going to be it was weird, and I was telling you a little bit before, but I did like one final semester, one final fall where I was taking like one class, and I was itching because I knew the draft was coming up. Um, we had done really well in the fall, and November and December, like it felt like took forever because I just like wanted the draft to come. I wanted everything to come, and then like the draft, everything preseason, it all flies by, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, I wish I can go back and take my own advice, but I also think like I learned a lot in the sense of going through that, and everything that I've like experienced, I truly believe like has helped me in the long run. Um, but that's and that's all I can speak to. So I
For
think it's
sure.
like it's it's uh it's helped a lot, but also what am I if I had said it didn't help a lot, like, like
Yeah. Yeah.
if I perceive it that way, and I think that helps me, continue to keep doing this because if I didn't think it was worth it, then, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. And it's almost a paradox too, because like even the things that maybe didn't help you still help you like moving forward, and you
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
still learn from that kind of in that interesting way. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, I think as humans too, we are wired to just always like, what's next? Where are we going next? What's the next thing? And like you said, you kind of have to be very intentional with taking those moments. And so
Hmm.
um before we get into a spiritual podcast, we'll move on
Yeah, right.
to the
Yeah.
next
That's our next
question.
venture, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think all right, this is good because we talked about so this was a question that someone typed in or I guess put in. How different was college ball than professional ball in your eyes?
Hmm. In my experience, and this is only my second year as a pro, but I think in college, everyone is close in age. Um, there's a shared goal of, you really want to win your conference, say. Um, everyone's, you kind of know everyone's schedule. You have class and like you party together, you live together, you kind of do most things together. Whereas in the pro game, you have a 17-year-old. I've got a 20-year-old to the right of me, and I've got a 30-year-old to the left of me in the locker room. So guys are at very different stages of life. I think that's a big, big one for me. That might be the biggest difference, as well as the added element of people have their personal goals in terms of like contract incentives. Um, they want to get sold to a different team. They want to get traded, or they want to be starting, and they don't care if you've been there for a day, a month, a year, whatever. That competitive side, and not that college isn't competitive, because I had, a couple of my teammates in college were some of the most competitive people I ever played with, but yeah, there's a little bit more of I don't know what you want to call it, but a little bit more bite in terms of and I think that it's tough it's more difficult to build camaraderie. It's definitely not impossible, and I honestly think this locker room that I'm a part of right now is the closest I've seen in pro and like in my pro experience. Um, and I'm loving it. And I think we've had success because of some of the relationships that guys have. It's easy to play for a guy who you truly respect and you want to help, whereas a guy that, you don't really know him off the field or whatever, but I think being a professional is like showing up and doing your job, and it's a job, at the end of the day, like that's the biggest difference between college and pro is like guys are showing up and doing their job, and whereas in college it's fun, but
Yeah.
sorry, I'm getting
Yeah.
another call.
I
Um,
mean, pros too, it's almost
yeah, no,
it's a dog eat dog as well, and like it's great
mhm,
to make friends with someone, but if they're playing over you and that's the difference between you making, 10,000 more dollars, like you're gonna be
yeah, exactly,
a little
exactly.
salty. So, and what about from like field or like on the field of play, have there been any
Hmm.
major
Yeah,
differences?
I mean the speed of play, the physicality. I'd honestly say the physicality at times is not that different. I think in college soccer, a lot of guys physically developed, maybe a little bit too bulky, Um, but
American soccer proper.
yeah, I mean, I played in the Northeast, so like we
Yeah.
we played against Army, we played against Navy. Um, so the physicality, I'd say, is similar, but the speed of play, night and day, technical ability,
Yeah.
um, reading the game in terms of some of the passes that players will make. Like I could put it in I could put it in slow motion, or I can pause the game and I would never pick out this pass. But this center mid is doing it on the run while like, it's just like different level. Like some of
Yeah.
the guys have played in on the biggest stage, whether it be like Copa Sudamericana or, like we have one of our DPs has played for Boca Juniors, and he played in Spain for Deportivo de La Coruña against Barca in the Camp Nou against Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. And I'm training with him every day, so it's like there's a the discrepancy in terms of like just the most basic um, touch play, two touches. Um, the speed of play is just it's night and day. Like, yeah. I think
It's
that's the,
interesting.
the easiest way I can put it is
Yeah. Well, it's interesting
literally
because
night
I
and day.
I kind of just had this revelation that it's maybe not that like they're physically that much faster or that like the actual speed is, I guess, if that makes sense, like
No,
quantifying
it's
it.
it's all up here.
Yeah,
It's the
but
processing for
the
sure.
IQ, the processing, but also again the technical ability to then execute those things.
Hmm.
Maybe, because then instead of it like it's a one touch instead of a two touch, and something like
Hmm.
that. So I
Hmm.
don't know, maybe that sounds dumb, like, but I guess
It's simple. It's so
yeah,
simple, but
yeah,
it's true. I mean, that's you watch the highest level. The game of football is extremely simple, but
yeah.
it's hard to do.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
So the next one, and I'm gonna add a little like tidbit in here, was what's your usual game time routine?
Hmm.
And I'm curious, has it changed over the years? Are there certain superstitions, certain
Yeah.
little, rituals? Like tell me,
Hmm.
and I'm curious even up to, before like right before kickoff, like game warm up, things like that,
Hmm.
like take me through, I guess, a day in the life.
Yeah. So I was really, really good buddies with one of the goalkeepers at BU, and we would joke that like if you don't have a good warm up, like that means you're gonna play well in the game. And it's funny because like we would have games and I would like just be spilling basic stuff, and he'd be like, "Oh, today you're gonna have a great game," and then we do well as a team. And after the game, he's like, "Dude, you just have to not warm up well." Um, So, but yeah, I mean that's more of a joke. I mean, like I
Yeah.
think the warm up, especially as you get older and more comfortable with who you are as a goalkeeper and who you are as a player in general, you can start to tailor, wow, sorry, um, your warm up to what you think is important. So for me, like I think like volleys just to start, like I just need to feel the ball. I don't need it to be ripped. Like I just need a ball to hit me in the face, like right at my nose, I can catch it, you know. Um, and it's really just like a feeling that you're looking for in terms of the pregame warm up.
Yeah.
Before that, I'll do some kind of meditation, whether that be like headspace or just trying to sit in silence, focus on my breathing, some kind of mindfulness, trying to get my head in the right spot, in the right place.
Do you
Um,
find that that helps you in the game, or like do you notice it maybe if you don't do it, or like do you find that there's a
yeah,
like a change
I
from
was
doing
I
it?
was much more superstitious, uh, maybe earlier on in college, and then as I like continued to play more games and whatnot, like we had a game where like our locker room, they purposely put our locker room like a 5-10 minute drive from because there was another school event or whatever. So it's like you don't really have the time to do the exact same pregame routine. And then I think not having a routine kind of helps, at least me, because that's kind of the way I view goalkeeping. It's like I want to have a perfect game where it's like I start the game and it's just a shot around and I hold it and then I get to, but like sometimes in the first minute you have to like have a super brave 1v1 save, or sometimes you don't touch the ball at all the whole game. So um, I think trying to mimic that is how I tailored my like uh pregame routine, pregame ritual going into, like, yeah, there were certain things like I wouldn't have like the same meal, the same, I don't have to put one shoe on the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
But as long as I can get like just to sit and be mindful for a little bit, and like, yeah, warm up in college I had a specific warm up that I would like. Now as a pro, like the goalkeeper coach and I kind of have a conversation, and it's same thing, it's tailored to what you want to do, and maybe it depends on the opposition that you're playing. Maybe they like to, we're playing DC United, so this weekend we've been doing a ton of crosses because Benteke, DC will just pump the ball in from anywhere. So maybe you'll want to see 5 more crosses
Love
in your
that.
warm up. So, and that's, I think, having a relationship with your goalkeeper coach, having like an honest, being able to, it goes both ways. When you're stepping up to play, the warm up is for you. Is if you're going to play in the game, like that warm up, and you're the number one, the warm up is for you.
For
So
sure.
it took me. I used to be like, just let the coach do it. When I first started playing in college, it was like, oh, like you got it. Like you just tell me what to do. And then as I played more games, I would be like, okay, wait, maybe I don't want to do this drill before the game. I want to do like I want to hit the floor more. I want to, so yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but
Oh, nice. I love it. I love
yeah.
that you mentioned like tailoring it based on teams that you're playing. I think it's so
Hmm.
important, because then you can adjust it and feel more comfortable, And 5 more balls, like it might be a cross that you misjudge in the warm up that then you get right in the game, and like
Exactly.
it's so important.
And I think a big part of, I was kind of joking about it before, but the warm
Yeah,
up is to be ready for the game. So like you said, if
for
you
sure.
misjudge one in the warm up, that's fine. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to be perfect in the warm up. And I used to have that idea of like, if I'm not, I'm gonna do 4 reps, but they have to be perfect. So I end up doing 8. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm exhausted. Like I would like my junior year when I first started playing games, like sometimes I'd go into the locker room and be exhausted before the game. And I'd be like, what am I doing? And then you like get cold because the first 20 minutes of the game you don't do anything. And then like you're kind of like trying to find the second wind. Like I think ideally like you get a good blow, but when the match starts, like 100%.
for
You've
sure.
caught that second wind and you're like ready for whatever. You're not like, oh, I hope the first 5 minutes I don't have to do anything because like you're like
Yeah.
finding your legs or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Sometimes,
as you grow as a player, like you become accustomed to like what your body needs and
yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it might be three crosses and other times it might be eight. Like,
hmm
like there's stories of Van der Sar. He'd take a few volleys and
yeah,
then he would walk in,
that's
like,
incredible to me. But
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
no, I mean,
That's,
and that's the thing. Like you know what you need, like
yeah, exactly.
at that point in your career, like what are you gonna tell Van der Sar? No, you need to be like diving around. Come on, you
Yeah.
know?
Exactly. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like I'm a big believer in having trainings be so difficult to where you are messing up and you are making mistakes because if you're not doing it in training, you're going to do it in the game.
hmm
And so I think that aspect of not being afraid to mess up, like it's only going to help you.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. I'm we've spoken about that before in terms of
Yeah.
like, when we've been training together, but yeah, I mean, the game presents questions and you have to figure out the answers in training
Yeah.
and pull out the right answer, pull out the right solution when the question is asked. And it's only once in the game, but you
Yeah.
ask a lot of questions in training. And so you have kind of a toolbox of how you would respond to, a striker's in 18 with the ball at his feet. Are you gonna go out and spread or he'll just dribble right around you? So then, just like trying to replicate different game like scenarios. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a great way to put it. I like that. I like that. And where you come from, how you brought up, your height, your size, like all that plays,
hmm
different solutions that maybe another person may not have,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Coffee, tea, any caffeine,
Before
like
the game,
before or just in general, like every
I'm not a
morning.
big caffeine guy, man. It really
Okay,
goes right to my head. I think I'm a herbal tea guy before
nice,
bed,
nice.
chamomile.
Yeah,
Um,
quality.
But I mean, I love the taste of coffee, but
Yeah,
the caffeine, like, and I'll have one, but it's not like I need it, when I wake up
gotcha.
first thing, or
Gotcha.
pre-training or pre-game or something. But
Nice. Hey, nothing wrong with the decaf. It's like no one
honestly,
does.
you know what? I'm a big smelling salts guy.
Really?
Yeah, man,
Okay.
that gets me going. Well,
I've
I don't
never
know
tried it.
why, but
I've
yeah,
never
we had a
tried them,
guy on
but I
my
can
college team
imagine.
that would crack them, and like that thing gets you going. So yeah,
I've only ever seen the Joe Rogan episodes where they do it and he like
yeah, it's not that
yeah.
bad, but
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. So that's your secret sauce. I'll have to
yeah.
get some and try it.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Final question is how important is a weak foot as a goalkeeper?
It's depending on how comfortable you become with your weak foot. I think it can be very important. Um, it's just kind of like what I was referring to before. It's another tool to have.
Hmm.
If you're able to pick out a pass with your left foot to the right back instead of having to run around the ball and use your right foot, that's, you know, a second and a half where the opposing team doesn't know what's going to happen. A second is a long time at the professional level. Like if you give a player an extra second to make a decision with the ball, yeah, I mean that's like giving him a free bonus, you know? It's like these guys are making split second decisions. So if you're able to help another player in your team because of your weak foot, it makes a lot of difference. And I think and that's just an added plus. I think you have to get to this level, you have to have the same, you have to be able to play at least a 10, 20-yard ball with either feet, driven, clipped. Um, it is an important skill to have, but that doesn't mean in the games you have to be hitting left-footed balls, left and right. You don't have to be spraying it. You don't have to be Ederson with your weak foot, but you have to be comfortable enough to like one-time clearance. Sometimes a defender is not going to be able to give you a perfectly weighted ball to your strong foot and then you get
Some
to clear it.
sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's part of being a goalkeeper and being ready for anything that falls under the umbrella of like you're just gonna have to deal with it. Whatever
Yeah,
situation is presented, you have to deal with it. And a lot of the time, you're not gonna have that time to take a touch, push it over to your right foot, and then clear it. It's just gonna be one time.
yeah,
So yeah, weak foot is big for sure. And I think I'm fortunate enough to like I played a lot with my feet growing up, and but I've also worked a lot on my left foot in terms of being comfortable hitting a ball 25, 30, 35, 40 yards, clipped, driven on the floor. Um, and it's just part of my arsenal to if you can use it, great, but you
yeah.
definitely need to have it as a backup plan.
It'd be curious to have a study that looks at, I guess the difference in success rate, however you would quantify that for a goalkeeper of, guys that use their left foot more compared to
Mm,
the ones that don't,
yeah.
like that. Because like Ederson doesn't really use his weak foot too much,
No, definitely not.
but like when he needs to, it's class,
It's class, yeah,
so
for
and
sure.
like that's
And that's
that's
the
the
thing.
thing.
It doesn't need to like you don't need to be better with your weak foot than it doesn't matter. At
Yeah,
the end of the day, it's like, can you execute what needs to get done? How it
yeah,
gets
exactly.
done is not as
However you do
important.
it. I mean,
Especially
you
it's like, same thing with goalkeeping. It's like
yeah.
if you save and you look ridiculous, no one cares, especially the head coach, because like as long as there's a zero,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Well, even you look at Allison and he does like outside of the foot clearances all the
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
so it just
I,
shows like
I I know so many goalkeeper coaches that probably hate to see that
yeah,
because they're
yeah.
like, what am I supposed to tell kids I'm coaching? But yeah, I mean, yeah, like at the end
I
of the day,
love
if the
it.
job gets done, like job gets done.
I agree 100%. And what do you think? You said you worked on it a lot. You grew up playing with both feet. What have you found? Because of course it's one thing to do it in training, right? It's
Hmm.
another thing to do it in a game under the pressure, kind of under the heat of the moment. So what have you found has helped you really been able to develop that weak foot to where you may not even think like, oh, I'm putting it
Mm.
on my left foot, or I'm putting it on
Yeah,
my weak foot.
I think just the repetition of doing it where, yeah, when the ball's at my feet, I'm not thinking, oh, it's on my left.
Yeah,
I'm scanning the field and I'm looking for a pass to play. If it's on my left foot, I'm not thinking, I'm
yeah,
trusting in the work that I've put in previously to like take over that mind muscle, like
yeah.
reps,
Like
connection.
ball needs to go here. How do I get ball there? Ball goes
Exactly.
there.
Essentially, yeah. So, and I think, I mean, like when I got to Orlando is really where I was like, oh, my left foot is good. And then the goalkeeper coach was like, okay, clip a ball into my hands. And he's like 10 yards out. And I was like, I could play you a pass on you. I could play you on the ground, but like,
Yeah,
I can't, drive a ball with my left foot. And he's like, so why do you think your left foot is good then? You think every pass you're going to play? And anyways, that's when I
yeah,
really started to, uh, put a lot of practice into my left foot, into my weak foot. And, it's honestly as simple as you put a ball in the 6 yard box and you're facing the goal and you just practice getting the contact on your foot. I mean,
yeah,
really from like you can hit one with your strong foot and really feel how it feels on your actual foot and just try and mimic that with your left. That's like
yeah,
that's what my goalkeeper coach in Orlando told me, and just doing that continuously, and then you start to back up. Once you feel comfortable, you can drive the ball into the net from the 6 yard box with your weak foot. Then you back up, go to the penalty spot, do the same thing, hit 5, 10 at the end of every practice, and then you start to progress it to finding a target or finding. It's easier to hit a person than it is to hit a small goal.
for
If
sure.
you can hit a small goal, like wow, you're incredible. But
Class.
especially with your weak foot, like and trying it, like whether it be in games or a scrimmage or whatever, like you have to be okay with you're gonna shank one or you're not gonna like connect every single pass. I mean, watch any game where the goalkeeper is on the ball, like they're not gonna complete 100% of their passes in that even just in that 90-minute game. Like
Mhm.
very, very rarely. And that doesn't mean that they're doing it wrong, but sometimes you have to put a ball into a good enough space and hope your teammates can figure it out. It's
Yeah.
not always going to be on you, but you have to bring what you can, and that being your distribution, if it's with your left or with your right, um, you have to give your team the best chance to win games.
And guys, I've seen it in person, so he's not lying.
Yeah.
Francesco's got it like that.
Yeah, Esteban's gonna love that. I don't know if he's gonna see this, but that guy loves my left foot more than anyone.
Class, top
Yeah.
class. One thing that's really helped me, uh, believe it or not, and it's not even the same technique, but even like hitting volleys with my left foot, like
Mm.
just getting comfortable, you
Yeah, just comfortable with the
yeah,
contact on your left
like the
foot, really.
feeling exactly.
Yeah.
Even if
Locking
it's
your ankle and like
yeah,
being like, I hate to use the word again, but intentional with like what you're trying to do. Like I felt like
yeah,
when I was younger, I was just like swinging my left foot like a golf club and just like
yeah,
hoping
just
that it
putting it
like
through
hits
it.
the right
Yeah.
spot. Now it's like,
For sure. No, I think it's great because then you just and your body gets used to it, your brain adapts to it, like it's
hmm
and honestly, we talked earlier about like doing your role as a backup or as a number three. I've found that I can kind of set myself apart where like I'll hit in swinging crosses,
Yeah,
from
me too. Dude,
like
I genuinely every time we do crosses, I am the left-footed player.
yeah,
I'm the left-footed guy
same.
serving,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm not saying that's a huge part of why I was brought in,
No,
but there's
yeah.
no other lefty, and I have the best left foot, and I like again, that's just one more thing for
Yeah.
to be pointed at as like, hey, this is why you should sign me.
And it's a big deal because if like you said, if the goalie coach can't do it, you're not going to pull a field player to do it. And
hmm
if you're playing a team where they're whipping in crosses from the left side, or I
Yeah.
guess like your left side, you need to be able to see as many of those crosses as possible. And not
hmm
just, like lofted balls, like to be able to actually whip one, to curl one, like to
hmm
have, as you mentioned, a different weapons in the arsenal in that sense. Like it's
hmm
it's huge. It, it
Yeah.
it like you said, it could be the difference maker.
Yeah. Really.
So
I mean,
yeah,
really. Like I'm glad you brought that up because I do feel that that is such an important thing that it can get overlooked.
for
And it's
sure.
not the most important thing. I think there's a tendency for younger goalkeepers to like try and overplay and do too much, but having the skill and using the skill are very different things. I think
Yeah.
every goalkeeper should have it, and then between your head coach, between the playing style of how you guys play, determine how you use the skill. But as a young player developing, I think it's top to definitely have a weak foot that you trust and can, rely on.
And it speaks volumes about like the confidence that you have, in yourself. And, if you have a coach that sees, okay, like this guy's hitting crosses with his weak foot, you know, he's someone that I would trust. Like if he gets a bad pass and he has to go on his weak foot, we're gonna
hmm
trust him to be able to get it out, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
I
so
remember that being said, like I'd work on it enough to like in college on a goal kick, like the right back's open. I put the ball right in the middle of the six.
yeah,
I remember the first ball that I like first left-footed, like weak-footed to our right back. And like the whole team is frozen because the last four goal kicks I've taken with my right
yeah,
foot. So they're like, you know, even and it's just that second. Then the right back receives it, is able to find this center mid, turn big ball, and now we're in the attacking half in three passes.
yeah.
And that is just so clear to me because I was like, wow, like that this
Yeah.
actually helps so much.
I remember seeing a clip of Hugo do that.
hmm
Like, I don't know where he was playing. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah,
that is so powerful to
yeah,
be able to have that. And so
yeah. To have it and have the confidence to like pull it out in a
yeah,
game.
to do it
Yeah,
in a goal kick situation. I've never
yeah.
done it in a goal kick situation, but I would feel confident, but that's a whole nother as well too, you
Hmm.
know. But again, it's like, you have no idea where the ball could go, and
Hmm.
that,
Oh
like you
yeah.
said, that moment makes all the difference.
Yeah. With my strong foot, I've put my fair share of goal kicks out of bounds. Like
Yeah, yeah,
at the college level, professional level, like it's just part of it. If you're gonna
yeah,
want to try and play that way, like you have to obviously as a player, you're trying to limit it, but as a coach, like if
yeah,
that's the style of play you want to play, like you're gonna have to
yeah.
deal with a couple miscues. But
Pro golfers hit bad shots all the time.
yeah, dude.
You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
And they hit thousands of balls. So
Yeah, exactly.
not too different. And like you said, I think that's the way the game is changing, the way the game is moving. Like I would get frustrated at myself and like small sided if I gave away a bad pass. But
Hmm.
then, think about how many bad passes center backs give away, midfielders give away, and you're basically no different, and
Yeah,
so
you're just under a magnifying glass because it's a
yeah,
goal if you
if you
pass it
pass it
to
up.
the other team.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah, no,
you mentioned
it's tough,
you
man.
mentioned kicking out of bounds. Like out of bounds is
Mhm.
better than the goal.
Yeah.
There was a
No,
big
I've put my like trying to drive a ball, trying to find like, we had our 10 in college was one of my best buddies and we had great chemistry. And he would float in that pocket where like none of the
oh,
center backs would push up to him and the six would just kind of forget about him. And I could just drive it in, he would
the
turn
best.
and then we're 4v3. But when I would play that ball and it doesn't connect, it's their six brings it down, and now it's just a counter. I'm starting their counterattack.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
But
mean, my college
when it
coach
works, oof, the
would be right here at halftime. But
yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, when it worked, yeah, I probably created as many, if not more, chances
yeah.
than you know giving up goals. So, but at the end of the
Well,
day, if you're giving up goals left and right, and you're just trying to force playing out, like
yeah,
yeah, like Brighton at
that,
times, I'm like, man, just put your foot through the ball. Like just get
yeah,
behind the ball and defend. Like you're up 1-0 and you're
yeah,
trying to like pick apart a team that is like, yeah,
yeah. Sending everyone forward, and like
just
just
like they're jumping everything. Like just like that's the thing. I think playing to play is so stupid. I think
yeah,
playing to like keep the ball is great, but if you're a team that plays and everyone's just jumping your outlet pass, like that means just put one in behind and your
yeah,
nine is in on goal. Like
for sure.
I think teams lose sight of that at times, but that's me on my
Especially
soapbox.
especially if you've been building out, they're gonna be
Hmm.
higher, and there's gonna be space in behind.
Sorry. And as a goalkeeper, you can be the one to drive that. Ederson does a great job of that. Like
Yeah,
every once in a while, he'll just send Doku on a through ball. I mean, he can smack a ball 90 yards in the air,
yeah,
but like same thing. Like if I'm playing these balls underneath to center backs to center mids checking in, like tell your wingers, hey, on one time, I'm just gonna pick up my head and put it in behind because like if
yeah,
they're all at half field, like I can kick a ball past half field and
yeah.
I actually got in college I got 2 assists through doing that.
Nice,
Like because
nice.
teams would like just start like on goal kicks would just the center back would play me and this kid would just come sprinting. So I know everyone's gonna come, just hit it as far as you can,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
There's nothing better than that nice ball into the false nine, like you talked about, though. Just a nice
oh
low
man,
driven, like
just clipped. Oh, love
yeah.
that.
Oh, it's the
Um,
best.
yeah, man,
It's the best.
and yeah, the one of those assists came against Boston College, like our rival. So,
Nice.
man, I cannot tell you how good that felt, but
Oh, that's a knee slide. That's a knee slide you
yeah,
knocked out.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Well,
exactly,
going back to it being better out of bounds and in the goal, I think it was Chesney that did it recently, where like he took a bad touch or something,
and just put it out for a
and
corner.
he
I saw
literally
that. Yeah.
he kicked it out for a corner,
Hmm.
and so it's like that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Sure, could
like
you have done
trust in your
better?
team to be able to defend a corner as opposed to like you smash a ball centrally and you're not in the goal, like he's just
Yeah,
gonna turn and finish.
exactly. Especially at that level too, like you'd
Hmm.
much rather deal with, okay, like
But
we'll
on the other side, sorry, I didn't mean to cut
no,
you
no, you're
off,
good.
but if they score off that corner, that's going everywhere, you know?
Yeah,
But they don't. So
but I would rather concede a corner than like give them a gift and
yeah,
just,
giving the
just
nine the ball in the 18.
yeah, exactly.
100%.
Exactly. So, well, kept it short and sweet, which was
Yeah,
good.
man.
And I think, even with the few questions that we had, it was pretty informative. And yeah, man, we appreciate you coming on.
Of
And
course.
you're like our in-house podcast resident, which was
Yeah,
like,
right. Whenever you need me,
oh,
man, I'm around. Maybe in three
yeah.
years, but
I know. Yeah, I know. But hopefully can be more consistent with this, get some other top guys on and
yeah.
eventually too, like we talked about, do a little bit of a yeah, goalkeeper kind of
Dude,
mastermind.
I think Levy is one of those guys that would be up for it for sure.
He
I
and I have
mean,
done a
Hugo's got
podcast
kids
before.
and whatnot, and
Yeah.
the guys
He
with
and I
the guys that got families and whatnot, it's a little bit tougher, but I think
yeah,
there's definitely a group of guys that would be into it for sure.
I think if we could find a good time, yeah, yeah, it will work. It will work well. Well, anyways, we'll talk off camera, but Francesco Montali, thank you very much.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you guys.